In this section, we've been complicating the idea of writing as communication. In this video, I'll continue this complication as we begin to discuss multimodal communication. You may have noticed that one of the tasks in the literacy narrative assignment is to include and integrate at least one multimodal element. Let's take a look at this word multimodal to try and understand what it is describing. If we break apart the word multimodal, we can see that it is referring to multiple modes, types, or kinds of something. So multimodal communication refers to communication that employs different kinds of communication elements or types. In one sense, this sounds more complicated than it is. Anytime we see a bit of words with an image, we have a multimodal text. We have multiple modes of communication working together to communicate something. In our course, when we refer to multimodal elements, we are referring to non-textual elements like images, videos, or audio elements, since written text is the default communication mode in a composition course. So far, so good. But how do multimodal elements work? What do they do? This is where things get a little complicated. When we include multiple modes of communication in a text, those elements communicate with the reader or viewer, but they also communicate with each other. This internal communication often leads to communication with the audience that would not be possible in just one mode, like text. Let's look at an example to make this a bit clearer. This is an image capture of an early draft of Writer's Journal number 2. The text in this selection from the Writer's Journal assignment is asking you to think about and reflect on your first impressions of the literacy narrative assignment. Let's take a closer look at the image. First, notice that the image is sized and positioned at the beginning of the assignment page. Since we read left to right in English, it is the very first thing we will see. This means that as we read the text, this image is going to color how we understand what is printed. Second, let's look at the image itself. The person is drinking tea, and they seem to be in a more informal space. What if this image was in the assignment? How would it change the initial impression? This image is clearly in a workplace and is less formal than the other one. Seeing this image first in the assignment sheet might lead one to approach the Writer's Journal more formally or as a higher stakes assignment. Let's return to our original image. What else is happening in this image? In the picture, we can see 3 different communication modes or technologies. We have a laptop, a cellular phone, and at the edge of the image, we can see a notebook. This might underscore the idea that there is not one type of literacy. Instead, as we've already discussed, there are multiple literacies. I think our discussion of the Writer's Journal draft shows us some important things about multimodal communication. First, how multimodal elements communicate among each other is going to require some interpretation. Careful selection of multimodal elements can help guide an audience's interpretation, but it is best to explain what those elements are doing in a text and how an audience should make sense of them. Second, where and how a multimodal element is included in a text is going to be just as impactful as what the element is. As you begin experimenting with including multimodal elements in your writing, pay close attention to how you explain what those elements are doing, but also attend closely to how and where you are including them. Playing around with different elements and different locations within a text can create new dialogue opportunities between you, your text, and your audience.